just, as it's about 10 after 6, we're going to get started. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Mitch Archibald. I'm the Chief Returning Officer for this year's SMUSA election. My partner in crime, Amir, you may have seen him on the entrance, Amir Al-Irani. He's the Deputy Returning Officer who is guarding the ballot box by the door. If you haven't already, please do, if you want to submit a question and you don't feel like coming up to the mic later, there is a mic box there and there's refreshments as well by the door. So how this is going to work, if anyone's not been to a board forum before, I'll kind of introduce the agenda, but basically we'll have a brief kind of speech, we'll kind of then go over what's going to happen, and then we'll get to the main attraction, which is your board candidates. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to our keynote speaker of the evening, Dr. Rohini Banerjee. I don't know if anyone here knows Rohini, but she's a very popular face around campus. Basically, I could go on and on about her different achievements, but she's currently Vice Chair of Senate, previous President of the Faculty Union, the first person of color to hold the President of the Faculty Union position, and she served on various boards around the city like Addison House, Sacred Heart, Point Pleasant Park, Jelly Care Center, and more. So she is a very energetic face to kick us off and talk a little bit about governance and the student experience and to liven up the evening of it. So.
Merci beaucoup. It's always a pleasure to be amongst students, especially here where I'm Mi'kmaq on unceded territory, and St. Mary's sits here as we gather. I have an opportunity, I see every day is a little opportunity, and when I get an email from Mitch, I have to respond. Can you come in and talk to our students a little bit about governance? And ironically, tonight I'm going to be at Dalhousie talking about collegial governance in my job as president of the faculty union, and right now as vice president, and the kind of situations that I found myself in, making sure that the union and employers knew how to communicate clearly. So really what I wanted to talk about for not too long is the importance of governance. And all of you who are at the table who decided to put your name on a ballot box, for those of you who decided to show up tonight, you're all part of the governance equation. So every single person here who has decided to come here and engage, you've made a conscious choice. And this should be something that to note and to remember, and these are skill sets that you're going to build as you go on forward. For those of you who put your name forward, I salute you. I know that I was not able to do this at your tender age, but now in my mid-40s, I'm understanding very slowly how important it is that representation is there. As Mitch alluded to, I've been in the first in many situations, and I'm delighted to see that there are many seconds and thirds that are coming behind me, and doors are being opened, and windows are left open, and also we're allowed to ask questions and be curious. The beautiful thing about university is that you're here to be comfortably uncomfortable. So there's going to be moments in governance where you will be comfortably uncomfortable, where you will be the one asking a difficult question. You'll be the one sitting beside someone who doesn't understand you or see your point of view. And that's the beautiful part about intercultural competence and working towards global empathy. These are all part of our strategic plan, of course. And essentially, when we decide to do governance, whether you're your age or my age, this is a choice that we made because we find joy in giving back to the positive experience that we've had, or we've seen some negative aspects of our time at St. Mary's and we want to change it. And I know myself, and I shared this with Mitch this morning, some of the negatives and positives of my path, and I can only say that it warms my heart to see so many young people stepping up to the plate. One thing I do advise you is remember why you're doing this. I often get stopped and say, people tell me I do too much. But you got so much going on. Your name is on every committee. Why do I keep saying your name? But there's a reason why I do that. It's because I feel engaged with the university. I feel that I'm welcomed. And I also feel like that I belong. And part of governance is making sure that the people beside you and behind you also feel belonged. And there might be times when you're the only one in the room that looks like yourself. You're the only one in the room that might have the same opinion or the same approach. But you can be a trailblazer and a change maker. Please know that this is possible. Thank you for your time and enjoy the process.
Azu speaking on a governance panel on behalf of the SMU Faculty Union. So thank you so much for carving out this time in your evening. So I'm going to be pretty scarce for the rest of the night. I'm going to hand this over to Ms. Paula Minikin. Paula is our longstanding governance advisor. Again, if you have ever watched one of these before, you know that Paula is a longstanding friend of SMUSA and a friend of our teams, past and present. She has an endless amount of governance experience and consults for many different organizations and boards, and graciously comes every year to moderate these things with her very refined process and how she does that, which she will explain to you in a moment. Another thing I just want to briefly, I think, touch about is that I think the importance, especially this year with our first female president in 17 years and our first ever, I think, female board chair president team is the, I think, importance that the women leaders have here. And on behalf of the Student Association and myself and myself and the elections team, we do have some gifts for Dr. Banerjee and Paula as well that I want to quickly present before we go forward. So. Yeah, you first.
Yes.
Wow. Thank you so much. Exciting part. I'm going to hand this over to Paula now, who will really take this till the end of the night. Basically, first we're going to have some general questions for each of the members, and then we're going to take some of your written questions, which we are so happy that you submitted at the door, and then we will, you'll notice, place a mic stand over here in this little corner, and then you can line up the stairs there. I think is the best way we're going to do that. Only after kind of when we indicate that. We can ask some nice, friendly, collegial questions to the board candidates. And if you want to share this currently or not, the SMU Journal is live streaming. So the SMU Journal on Facebook, that's where you can find this official live stream. And both the SMUSA election page and the SMUSA page will share that live stream. So if you want to share that, please feel free. And I will turn the floor over to Ms. Paula Minikin.
Okay, so I don't have to stand here too long. I'm going to just give you an idea of how this works, and then we're going to get right into it. So we drew names a little bit, probably about 20 minutes ago, and we selected the order in which questions will be asked and the order in which we're going to start. And then I keep a very detailed record of who spoke when to make sure everyone gets a fair shake. Each candidate will speak for between 2 and 3 minutes. I do run a timer. I am unkind, that's it. When the 3 minutes is up, I do stand up and you have to be quiet. And that's just to make sure that everything is fair. When we ask questions, the questions will be posed to the group. They get 1 minute to answer the question. And if there's a rebuttal question, they get 30 seconds. So it's very simple, and when you ask a question, I'm going to make a couple of on-the-fly rules, which I did mention to Mitch. If you are running for president, you get to ask one question, and it has to be less than 30 seconds. What has happened in the past is people who are running for the next office stand up and give a speech with a little question at the end, and that's not at all productive. So if you have a question, it has to be a question and not a speech. That's the only rule for the audience. Fair enough? Okay. How I pick people is very simple. You put your hand up or you line up, and we'll go that way. So with that said, I already told these guys the order they go in. So rather than me stand here, I'm going to sit back down. You have a choice. Your 3 minutes starts when you either stand at this microphone, take that microphone and stand out there, or sit down and give your speech. Whatever you want. When you start talking, I start talking. Okay? All right, good luck.
Well, I'm not going to wing it. I have notes with me today. My name is Jacob Garrety. I'm a poli-sci student here at SMU. I am the president of the Model United Nations Society here, and I'm the bar supervisor at Bistro Le Coq. It's a French restaurant on Argyle. I have a few goals in why I'm running for board of directors. My biggest one is that I want to try to get the board more focused on its original mandate of creating a vision for SMUSA and updating and writing policy. I feel like there's a lot of things the board is doing right now, but I feel like there should be more of a focus on the future. So I want to just work towards a mandate of a long-term vision and policy creation. I want to talk about strategic planning today. What would success look like in 10 years from now? And in order to do that, where would we need to be in 5 years, in 2 years, in 1 year? 20% of what we do has 80% of the impact. That's something that I've learned. I've gone to a few strategic planning courses in my life. They've really helped me a lot with deciding what to do, how to do it, and by creating a pathway to get there. I feel like we need to identify what work has the greatest return on investment. We need to be creating policies, updating our sustainability policy is super old and needs to be updated right now. I feel like we need to write an internal equity and diversity and inclusion policy, both of which were on the annual plan of the leadership team this past year. So what I really think we need to do as a board of directors and the leadership team is get together, figure out our long-term plan. Obviously the board is in charge of the 10 years, the 5 years, the 2 years. But when it comes to actually creating action, we need the leadership team there as well. And I would like to be part of having a say in what happens in next year's annual plan and working on being able to achieve that. Thank you very much. I'm sure all you guys have seen my posters around the school. Please vote for me in this election. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Alex Wilson. I'm a poli-sci student as well, from Bridgewater, Nova Scotia, about an hour south of here. And I'm running for board of directors because I want to make SMU a better place for everybody. I'm not going to get up here and tell you that I've saved the world, pulled kittens out of trees. But what I think SMU board would need to focus on, I think we should be focusing on mental health. I think that focusing on the mental health of students is very important to how we as a board interacts with our students. I believe one way that we can focus on that is through club sports and societies. I know as the secretary of the SMU golf team and founding member, I think it's important that we allocate funds towards those committees. I think committees in club sports. I also think that we need to focus on engagement, and I thank everybody in the room here tonight for being here. It is important not only that we protect our democratic processes and that we show support to them. I'd also be remiss if I didn't thank Mitch and Amir for all their hard work. Without the two of them, we would not be here tonight. They work hours every day, nights, evenings. If you have a question, send him an email. He's been really good. He's been awesome throughout the whole experience. I think we can all speak to that. Yeah, anyways. If anybody has any questions, you obviously ask them tonight. Have a good night.
So my name is Vana, and first of all, thank you so much all for coming out tonight. It really means a lot, and I hope you all had a wonderful Super Bowl weekend, and I hope you all are sober by now. I'm a Bachelor of Commerce student and majoring in marketing and entrepreneurship. And I have run a business called A&M Production. I organize events all around Halifax. And I'm also involved in Enactus. I have been the president for SMU Indian Society since last 2 years. And I'm playing basketball, badminton, and handball intramurals too for the school since last 3 years. So I'm here today to make a change and work with my fellow board members to let your voice be heard. I want to make sure that students are provided by the resources that they need at the right time and at the right place. I want to increase the opportunities for domestic and international students to connect and learn more about their different cultures, and everybody should know what's happening around the world. Doesn't matter if I'm from India. It doesn't matter if I have a friend Cooper in Canada, but he should know what's going around the world. And I guess I want to make sure that policies are implemented on a campus. And with my involvement around SMU in the last 3 years and living on residence for the last 2 years, which has been a really tough task for me, because residence, you all know, it has so much restrictions, you can't party, but I guess that's fair enough, because we all have to stay home. I respect that. And I learned more about their concerns living on campus because I saw too many people from all around the world. I have, friends from most of the countries now, and I'm really glad that I got that opportunity. I love policies and governance, and the passion for that is what making me standing here in front of you guys today. Another thing that I'm going to talk about is, I would like to learn more about it, is mental health. To be very honest, I was never much serious about it till last year, but life took some changes, some turns, and I guess, yes, mental health should be the priority for everyone. That's all I have to say for mental health. The second main thing I would be working on is the environment, and as you can see, if you have seen my poster, it also says please recycle it after the election, because that's important. The things that are going around regarding the environment, it needs to look after by all of us, and I guess if we make sure today, in coming 5 years or 10 years, it would be safe for our children. I don't know who's going to have children in the next 10 years, but I might. And
That's your time.
that's it. Last.
Nope.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Vana. I'm a third-year student here at SMU. I'm studying economics. Sorry, my heart is beating very fast and I'm very nervous, but I hope that doesn't stray me from articulating what I want to say to you guys today. So, coming here at SMU, I had a few troubles that I faced coming here first year, second year. And my dad said to me, Vambai, you have to be the change that you want to see. There's so many things that happen on campus that we're not happy about, things that we could change. Sorry, got a bit of cold. Things that we could change. But sometimes we just don't have a voice that's big enough to come and stand up here, because this is very scary. But I'm hoping that I can be that person for you. That student that's always stuck in their room, that doesn't have friends to pull them out and say, hey, let's go do this, hey, let's go do that. The student that's struggling with 3 jobs at the same time, trying to make it to class, but your prof is refusing to put notes online. That student that needs more time to study in the library, but they tell you to get out at 11 o'clock or something, but you've been in class all day. I'm here to talk for you. If you're not confident enough, if you're not ready to take this platform, I'm hoping that I can be that person for you. Hopefully, if I get elected,
That's halfway through.
hopefully if I do get elected, I'm hoping that students can take a more active role in making changes around SMU. Sometimes you come up here and say, this is what I have in mind, this is what I have in mind. I do have ideas in mind, but I'm hoping that we can create those policies and create those ideas together, and that the school can take a more active role so that you guys can come out. If we do stuff that the school wants to see, then we're going to get better engagement, we're going to get better interactions. I'm an RA here on campus. I have integrated with people from all over the world, different ethnicities, different religions. You know, coming from Africa, it's definitely shocking. It's a lot to take in, it's a lot to learn, but you know, it's a process, but you get there. And I think during that time, I've been able to hear some of the concerns that people have raised. You know, people in the Bengali society, people in the Arab society, people in the African society. You know, people that just don't have friends, people that don't come out to events. I ask them why. Why is that the reason? So let's get the conversation going. Let's talk about the things that bother you, and let's work together to make a better SMU. Let's be patriotic. Let's love our school. I love my school. This is why I'm doing this. I'm scared, but I love SMU, and I'm up here, and I want to make it a better experience for everybody, and not just the outgoing person. I want to make it a better experience for the underdog, the person that doesn't have a representative. So, make an informed decision. You're gonna... Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Govind Thawaiyan, and I'm from Kathmandu, Nepal. I'm currently studying Diploma of Engineering in St. Mary's University, and I'm in my second year. And I have 3 platforms. I will be basically working on accessibility. Accessibility branches into 2 things. So I will be more accessible to those students who really doesn't want to express. I have seen so many students who doesn't want to express. I want to be their voice. And then another accessibility will be branches to SMUSA resources. When I was first time here in St. Mary's, I had no idea. I was in many problems. I had no idea where to go and where to get the help. So I wanna make sure that SMUSA resources are really accessible to those students who really need them. And then second thing, I wanna work on flexible policies. We have policies, definitely, we know that, but I wanna make sure with all the respected board members to make our policies more updating, and then work with all the respected board members to implement new policies whenever we need, according to the needs of the student we have in St. Mary's. And thirdly, I want to work on efficiency. Definitely, I'm here to work. I'm here to raise the voice of those students who are behind. So I will make sure with all the respected board members to work on efficient and represent all those voices which are behind. Thank you, everyone.
Good evening, everyone. All right, so for any of you that know me, you'd know that to speak within 2 or 3 minutes is going to be a bit of a challenge, and that I talk a lot. But nonetheless, I'm Joshua Sidney, for those of you who don't know. I'm from the beautiful island of Barbados. I'm 19 years old, and I intend to major in economics and international development studies. I'm a first-year student here. I'm not sure if I would have mentioned that in my little preamble. So a little bit of a background as to why I've, kind of afforded this opportunity to myself. Back home in Barbados, I was a member of the National Youth Policy Coordinating Committee, and I was also a member of the Committee for Implementing the Rights of the Child. And I kind of had to suspend my contracts to come here, which was a partially depressing move, especially since I had worked so hard to get there. But I am somebody that believes in flexibility and that believes in, making the best of every opportunity that comes your way. So for me, this, being a member of the board of directors for SMUSA is going to afford me with the opportunity to, interact with policy and make a difference where possible. And I just feel as though I'm really excited about it. I'm not sure if you could tell from the tone in my voice. I am a bit nervous, so it may be a bit confusing, but I really am excited for it. I don't have the same story as everybody else. Everybody else came and they have a ton of issues. And yes, there are issues. Yes, SMUSA is not as accessible as it could be. Yes, as a resident, as a student or res, I have problems with .site. Yes, there are these things. But there are also so many amazing things that SMUSA has to offer, which kind of motivated me to want to be a part of this organization and want to represent them on the board of directors. So I'm sure, how many of you all have been to trivia night? Yeah, who doesn't love wings? And it's just like, as an international student, I've been able to benefit so much and kind of been able to call St. Mary's University home as a result of some of the initiatives from SMUSA. Healthcare is a big thing for me, and to know that I can come here and get treatment for as low, and not have to pay is amazing for me, because that is a worry. And there's just so many things that SMUSA has to offer, and I know Vin would have talked about being the change that you want to see, and it's just, I believe in improvement. I believe in acknowledging the things that are being done well, and SMUSA is doing a lot well, and I feel as though they should be congratulated for it. And it's just for whoever of the 8 of us, whoever is going to be on the new board on the new board, I feel as though we should go in with a mindset of, acknowledging what is being done right and seeing how we could do better in our role. How much time do I have left? Oh wow, there you go. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Tukusime. I'm a third-year finance and economics student here at St. Mary's University. Before I say anything else about myself, I'd like to thank all the students who have come through for leaving your work and your busy schedules to come and listen to what we have to offer. I'd also like to thank my fellow candidates for coming through for such an event, as you may have heard them say, and stuff up here. I'd also like to thank the SMUSA people, Mitch and Amir, for organizing this event, and the rest of the SMUSA team, right from the elections committee, because this is much bigger. So more about me. Ever since I came to St. Mary's University, I have benefited so much from the system. Right from the time I decided to apply for St. Mary's University, until the time I got in, I had people emailing me, I had mentors coming through for me. I received emails from the Saga team. I received emails from the residence department. And even when I got here, Mary's Flo welcomed me as well. I had multicultural committee on residence, and then I went out, I met more people in Saga, and then with welcome experience designers. And I have learned so much from this in terms of dealing with people, in terms of professional development. There's some things you don't learn in class, but you learn from such activities, such society. And so the reason why I'm here, standing before all of you asking you to vote for me, is because I want to give back to a system that has given so much to me in everything I've gone through. Thank you so much.
Hello, hi everyone. My name is Pearl Bella Rienzi. I am a second-year student. I am majoring in psychology with a minor in political science. So what I'm really passionate about, I'm going to talk about my personal philosophy. So sorry, I laugh when I'm nervous. Okay, so yeah. My personal philosophy is feminism, because I believe very strongly about the equality of not just like men and women, but also LGBTQ people, non-binary people. And then so I decided to run for board of directors when I went into Mitch's office, and he told me that we need more women on the committee, on the board of directors, which I thought was very important. And one of my main goals is to form a sexual health and wellness committee, which I know is a very bold claim to make, but I think it's extremely important, especially because I know there's a lot of cases of like sexual violence happening on campus, and we have a lot of survivors who are scared of coming out because there's a lot of victim blaming, let me say, because students are not really educated on how to respond to survivors. If someone comes out to you and tells you they were sexually assaulted, you're not trained on how to respond to that. So I just want to form a committee that will be able to educate people. I know we have the Res Consent Project, and we also have the Rainbow, is it a society or a committee? Committee. Yeah, so I basically want to ensure they have enough resources and funds to like host events that will create awareness on basically how to treat survivors and how to accept them in the community, and also to create spaces where people can feel comfortable enough to come forward anytime they feel like they're being mistreated or any sort of thing. And also one of the things I would think is really important is to have sexual education incorporated in like welcome week events, because I was looking up statistics on just like sexual violence on campuses, and one of the big things is that first-year students are extremely vulnerable to sexual violence, especially when you look at international students who are moving far away from home, probably without their family. Someone like me, I came here by myself, my parents were not with me. So if you look at such a person, they're in an extremely vulnerable situation, and they need to be aware of the resources around campus that can protect them and maybe support them in the event that something happens to them. Yeah, that's everything. Thank you.
Okay, so for the next part, we're not going to ask every single person. If we asked all 8 people all 6 questions, we'd be here till tomorrow and no one would want to stay, even though there are, did Mitch mention, there are fabulous prizes for everybody who stays at the end. There's a draw. So, and the prizes are fabulous, aren't they, Mitch? They are indeed. So if you stay till the end, you will be here for the draw, which is good. So how we've done this again, I drew names. And the names are for each of the questions, so it works out that every person will answer 2 questions, and then on the last question, I will have everyone, because that's the only way to get the math to work with 6 by 8. So I'm going to tell you your name and the questions you're going to be answering now. They don't get to know this ahead of time, and then we'll start, and we're going to go in the order. So Jacob, you are answering 1 and 3. Alex, you are answering 2 and 3. Abhinav, you are answering 2 and 4. Vimbai is 1 and 5. No, I missed one there. Sorry. Govinda is actually 2 and 6. Joshua is 2 and 4. Brian is 1 and 4. And Pearl is 3 and 5. I need to add 2 more. Hang on. I just realized my math problem. I've got it worked out. We're all good. So I'm going to rephrase this in 2 seconds. Just give me the news. I see where I went wrong. Oh, it's okay.
What I think we're going to do,
Okay.
don't interrupt you. I think rather than have everyone get up and come back, we're going to sort of the questions pass the mic along, if that works. If that's probably, if everyone's comfortable sitting down.
Yes, please.
So we'll have that one there if you'd like, that one be switched on. We'll do this just so we can avoid everyone getting up and trying to make this a little bit more expedient, if that works.
Okay, so now that I've fixed my math, which I should have seen it before, I'm going to read these out again. Jacob, 1, 3, 6. Alex, hang on. 2, 3, 5. Abhinav, 1, 2, 4. Vimbai, 1, 3, 5. Govinda, 2, 5, 6. Joshua, 2, 4, 6. Brian, 1, 3, 4. And Pearl, 3, 5, 6. Okay? We're going to answer the one. You'll only answer. We're not going to have one person get up and answer the 3 questions. I'm going to state the question, and then the 3 people who are supposed to answer it are going to answer it in order. So the question number 1 is: from what you have so far been able to learn about SMUSA, what do you see as the most important challenges we face? And the first person answering this will be Jacob, and you have 1 minute from the time Mitch passes you the mic.
Hey there, everybody. So I think the biggest challenge that SMUSA is facing right now would be voluntary unionism. It's happening all across Canada right now. There are different student unions that are, because of different laws in each provinces, are having voluntary union fees. If this was to happen in Nova Scotia right now, SMUSA would be dead in water. We do not have the infrastructure to keep going. Since we're such a small university, most of the money that SMUSA has comes from student fees. Every single one of you gives us $150 whenever you start every year, and that's how we pay for everything we get to do for you. That's how we pay for all the societies. That's how I'm getting the funding to be able to take 20 students with me and go to New York and compete for the university, Model UN. That's how all of our societies are getting a lot of the funding, is from this amazing organization. I think that is a huge issue that's coming up.
That's your minute.
Cool.
Okay, so the next person answering this question is Abhinav.
So, as far as I've seen now, one of the biggest challenges is like linking between students and SMUSA, which is accessibility. To be very honest, it's way better than before, but it's just that some of the students are not don't want to be in politics, and they don't want to read those kinds of policies and pages. They just want to talk. So I guess it can be one of the things. And the challenge that we are facing is keeping it simple, keeping it understandable, and keep students updated and get them involved in the sense that they know who is doing what, and like what's the role of board of directors, what's the role of president, what's the role of vice president. And as we say, like board of the directors are the face of students, and during my campaign when I'm telling students like I am running for board of directors, and they're asking me what does that mean. So I guess if I'm the face of students, so students should know, like, you know, okay, board of director does this thing. So I guess, yeah, that's it.
Okay, and then bye.
So I think some of the challenges that SMUSA might be facing is just like lack of information being passed on from SMUSA to the students. For example, there are things that have come across in my 3 years that I've been here that I still wasn't aware of. For example, you know, if you've been in Canada for about 13 months or so, like you can switch from being on the SMUSA health plan, forgive me, to being onto the MSI healthcare plan, which is cheaper, you don't have to pay for that. Also rigidity within the Constitution. It's not easy for students to start up committees and all of that because of all the regulations that we go through, and I feel like that needs to be looked through, and students need to get a chance to vote again for the type of Constitution that they'd like to see. Also the welcome weeks and stuff. September is a big time for students to come in, but I feel like there have been students that maybe don't get the same type of welcome. There are students that come in January, July, etc., who's checking up on them. Times when residence is open, but dockside isn't. Where are these students getting their meals from?
Time.
Thank you.
The next one is Brian.
Alright, so there's two challenges I'm going to talk about. The first one, like a few of my colleagues have mentioned, is being known by the public. And not just being known as the board, but what we do as the board. Most people think, and I think it's a misconception, that the board is supposed to do things in school directly. And I believe that's more of the role of the president and the vice president. The board is more an infinite game, so it sees things in the long term and tries to do things that are, like, you know, setting policies and things that kind of regard. So I'd like to make that clear to the students moving forward. The next thing would be the course book. Having looked at the financial statements, it's more of a budget. There's a deficit, there's a loss for the course book, so it's operating at a loss. Thank you very much.
Okay. Question 2. First up is Alex. Who? No, he's sorry, I must have read the number 1. He has questions 2, 5, and 6. That's what I've got there. I may have said 1 because his name, it was in his number, but that's, yeah, I may have said it wrong. But it's definitely 2, 5, and 6. They're circled. Okay. Okay, go ahead. Alex with question 2. Question 2, I'll read it at a good point. I should read the question at the beginning of each one. Question 2 is, please give a specific example of how you have helped create an environment where differences are valued, encouraged, and supported. What have you done to further your understanding of diversity?
Alrighty, hopefully this goes better than the last time. For example, of creating diversity, I've worked on multiple election campaigns over the past couple of years, both provincially and federally. During my experiences with those, I've obviously interacted with people from all different walks of life, seniors, students, middle-aged, as well as people from all different backgrounds of life, international immigrants into Canada, that sort of thing. And the second part of that question was, what have I done to understand, further my understanding of diversity? Obviously, coming from rural Nova Scotia, diversity really isn't a thing. So when you come into Halifax, you come into cities, and you see a lot more diversity, experience different cultures. So during the last few years here at St. Mary's, I've been able to interact.
That's your time. I turned this off, so it would make noise. So it's my fault. You're done. Okay. It does. Is it too short? Are you guys finding a minute too short?
Yes.
So this being a democracy, I'm willing to say, do you guys want to vote for a minute and a half? on the other questions, and we'll let you have another 30 seconds, and everybody go a minute and a half on all the rest of the questions. Okay, and I have note of who spoke on the first ones, and we'll give them 30 seconds at the end. Do you want to do that? I'm asking because you all seem to be running over.
Yes.
So we want to go to a minute and a half? It's the beauty of managing by a democracy. All right, so you're going to get another 30 seconds. And I'm going to just time that now, and then from now on it'll be a minute 30. Does everyone agree that's fair? No, nobody's going to say that's not fair? Okay, go.
So I think that when I've been able to engage on the like I said, on the election, but also campaigning within Halifax and within traveling to other cities across North America, being able to engage in different cultures, I believe it's not only made me better as a student, but it'll make me better as a student leader and moving forward.
Excellent. You have 3 seconds to go. Okay, so next, do you want me to restate the question since we had that little in the middle? This is going to Abhinav. The question again is, please give a specific example of how you have created an environment where differences are valued, encouraged, and supported. What have you done to further your understanding of diversity?
So, being the president for SMU Indian Society, and also being involved in Enactus and Entrepreneurship Center, I believe, I have met so many people now from all around the world. I believe throwing an event of Color Festival in SMU, which has never happened before in the history, with a mix of Spanish event called Tomatina. So I guess I'm on the right path. It's just that the diversity means a lot. When we come to this university, there are more than 35% international students, and it really means a lot to get to know about their country, where they're coming from, about their culture, about everything. Because when I came to Canada, I wanted to learn about, I wanted to see what's there in the church, because I've never been to church before. So I went with my Canadian friends there. So I guess, that means a lot to me. And
okay. Govinda, you're answering question 2 now.
Hello everyone again. I'm from very different background and very different educational background too. So when I was first time here, I was the third Nepalese student to represent St. Mary's from Nepal. So most of my friends in engineering, they were from different culture and different background. And I have always worked with people from different background and culture. They were the one who encouraged me to run for the board of directors so that I can really help them. To be specific, I have few friends from India and Bangladesh for this term, and they were looking for the service center and career services. I personally help them to guide up to the year. I really want to help them, those who need help, through the SMUSA resources and all the resources we have within the universities. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, and the last one answering question 2 is Joshua.
Okay, I'll keep this relatively short. Back in Barbados, I was the head of many student organizations within the previous school that I went to, and I was also the head boy of the school in and of itself. And because of those roles, I had to, deal with people or interact with people of various socioeconomic backgrounds and various types of leaders who have very diverging personalities. And in all honesty, sometimes it can be hard to handle because we're all different people and we all have different belief systems. But one of the primary functions of socialization is to learn how to improve on this. This is a skill set and you have to be willing to improve. Personally, I've done a good job in being able to foster, a comfortable environment for persons who have different opinions or feel different ways about different things. That pretty much answers the question, actually. I don't know, I'm still talking.
Okay. So we're going to go to question 3 now. On question 2, I do actually teach on this in the governance certification body, and we always like to say that diversity is a fact and inclusion is an act. And I think I hear people talking about everybody being different. If I were asking this question, and you could think about this when you give your questions, your answers later, I'd want to talk about how I'm including people who are different than me, not just the fact that I look different, not just the fact that I'm from somewhere else, because that's the real art of inclusion. Occasionally I'll throw in a tidbit, and you can ignore it if you want to. Okay. Question 3. What's motivating you to serve on the board, and what excites you about joining this board in particular? And the first person answering this is Jacob.
Hey there again. What's motivating me to want to be on the board is I want to create relationships between the board and the leadership group. I feel like we need more teamwork and engagement between the two when we're building the annual plan that the president releases every year. On top of that, I believe that we need strategic planning for the next 10 years, with each year being mapped out what we need to accomplish to have achieved the goals that we've mapped out for ourselves in 10 years. We want to make sure that we are doing the work that will have the greatest impact. I believe that work is updating the sustainability policy and writing an equity, diversity, and inclusion policy. Thank you very much.
Okay, next person is Pearl. Do you want me to read the question again? You got it. Okay.
So what motivates me is mostly I'd say the people who have been observing, who are above me, who've been doing really good work around campus, like my current employer. Well, she's actually in here today, and she's been doing a lot with us. I'm a residence assistant, and she's been educating us on like diversity, on sexual violence, like I touched on before. She's been teaching us how to relate to students and all that. And then also we have Kevin, who is also here. He's the vice of wellness. Equity and wellness. Yeah, well, he's been doing a lot with sexual violence also, because he's been having wellness weeks where we talk about alcohol abuse, and we all know that alcohol is like the #1 drug for rape and all that. And he's been working to try and teach people to drink safely and to avoid alcohol poisoning and all that. And also I'd say it's just testimonies from students around me, because I'll say when I was a first year, no one really tells you when you're beginning school that you're gonna, well, for me, I'd say I'm very shy, so it's not easy for me to make friends. It takes me some time, and there's a lot of okay, thank you.
Okay. Yes.
Would I be able to use the extra 30 seconds now? Because I realized I only answered half the question.
Oh, from the first one?
Yeah.
I'm letting each of you, so you can use it. You're coming off the list then. Okay, go ahead.
I just realized that I didn't say why I wanted to work with this board in particular. And I know a lot of the people on the board, and they are awesome, they are keen, they are interested, and they really, really want to make a difference. And I feel like I can help make that difference even more impactful than the difference they're already having. It's been. Thank you very much.
Okay. So back to Brian. Answering question 3, which since we just jumped out, I'll put it back again. What's motivating you to serve on the board? What excites you about joining our board in particular?
So as I mentioned before, what's motivating me to serve on the board is the system that I've been through and everything that this amazing school or university has done for me up to this point. What excites me about joining the board in particular is the change of mindset from a finite one to an infinite one. I get this from a book by Simon Sinek called The Infinite Game, and it's more to do with like looking at things in the long run versus the short run. Thank you very much.
Okay. Then bye.
So the main thing that's motivating me to be on the board is all the ideas and all the complaining. I'm tired of complaining. So I realized, okay, let me get on the board, be the change that I want to see, like I said earlier. But above all, I think it's definitely like the work environment and the people that I've come across. SMUSA. When I was actually running, I thought about dropping out, and I thought, okay, this is going to be a lot of work. And then I went into Crystal's office just recently, and even just coming across Mary and stuff, they're such nice people. Everybody you meet is so helpful. The environment is so welcoming, and I want to be a part of that team and kind of continue that type of environment. I felt comfortable in what I was saying. I felt like I could express how I really felt without being judged in any of that. And that's the main thing, that we want students to come through and tell us how they're feeling and how they're doing and how we can make this experience better. And that's what SMUSA stands for. We're trying to make a positive experience for all the students and any students, without any kind of judgment, without stopping you from being what you want to be or starting societies that you want to start, or truly just exploring your full potentials. There's so many people that are there to help you, and that's the kind of team that I'm trying to be a part of. Even just across SMU, they have really great teams. The RA team is great, the cultural teams are great, the societies. So I think that's one thing, this is like, or many things that are motivating me to be a part of the board and SMUSA. Yeah.
Okay, and the last one for this question is Alex.
So why I want to be part of this board is I've been a part of the SMU golf team. Obviously, I've mentioned that a couple times throughout my running. I've also been on the Lunenburg West Local Association board. I'm the vice president of that board. And what I've realized by sitting on both of these boards is how to impact change. When you see an issue, instead of complaining about it or writing on Facebook or tweeting about it, going out, making change to policy is the important things. And why do I want to be on this board in particular is SMU's been my home. When I decided I wanted to go to university, I was in like maybe grade 10, and I've had friends who were here. Spenny was here earlier, and SMU just always jumped out. I didn't even think about applying to another school. SMU was always the school, and I think being able to leave a positive impact on the history of SMU, and when I look back as an alumni in 20 years from now, the differences that I was able to make to better the student life for today and for the future is important to me.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're on to question 4. And question 4 is, what is your personal philosophy regarding governance and the role of the SMUSA board? And the first person answering this question is Brian.
The past 2 questions all my questions in fact have kind of been circling around the same thing, the way the SMUSA board works. And like I said before, I believe it's a long game. It's more of an infinite process and not a finite process. The role of the SMUSA board is not short-term things. It's more of the long-term things that happen in school. So it's more of finding out what's happening in society and finding the best way possible to position the school or the student body to move according to that, to the way the society is moving. Thank you, Mr.
Okay. And next is Abhinav. You got the question, or do you need me to restate it? You're good? Okay.
So, okay. First of all, I guess I would go for the good, as it doesn't put anyone to anyone. It's more about collaborative work, because at the end we are just from a community. And our CME's flyers also say, do what you do. So I guess that's a big line, for me. And governance is necessary as it gives structure to the community. And of course, you need representatives to execute the thing that we are planning on, the policies that we are making on. And I guess to get the right people to execute it, and if you get the right people at the right time, and if you get the right policies, I guess there's nothing better for SMU in the coming future. And that's about it.
Okay, and the last person answering this question is Joshua.
So for my personal philosophy regarding governance and the SMUSA board, I believe in not leading from the front, but leading with the cohort with which you intend to represent, if that makes any sense to any of you. In that, I think leaders, what they do many times is they get ahead of themselves and they think, okay, I'm the voice of the people, I know what they want, and they forget to consult the actual stakeholders for the decisions that you're going to make. So that's the first thing I want to mention, actually having conversations with the people who are going to be the benefactors of the decisions that you're going to make. I think another thing that the board is tasked with that we haven't really been mentioning is holding the president accountable. It is a huge responsibility on the board, and I feel as though we shouldn't lose sight of that, because everybody's gonna have ideas, and it's for us to, come together as a team and rationally explain or rationally discuss what is at hand, so to speak, so that the best decisions can be made in the best interest of the students. And that's about it.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're on to question 5. Question 5 is how would you contribute to a positive board culture, and what would that look like? And the first person answering this question is Pearl.
I'm wondering, by board culture, do you mean the board of directors?
Yes.
Yeah? Oh, okay. So I think board of directors, basically the main thing that involves it is teamwork. So we need to have a group of people who are willing to listen to each other, and even when they disagree, they're willing to put maybe personal feelings aside and understand each other's point of view. Yeah, so I'd say for positive board culture, we need a group of people who are open-minded to new ideas, to listening to differing views from their own, and we need a group of people who listen to not only each other but also the students and the issues that they face, and to be willing to work together to make SMU a better place for students. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, next is Alex.
I think positive board culture is very important. Obviously, I think being able to work together for the better good is obviously very important. I think not only being able to work together, being able to work to be the voice of every student, not just students on the board, the students in the room, the students on the live stream tonight. Being the voice not only of what you believe, but what the core believes. I think part of positive board culture is engaging with students and engaging with the general public on policy decisions. I think that's one very important aspect of how to have positive board culture. I also believe that obviously setting personal feelings aside, political views, in order to execute, like I said, for the greater good.
Thank you. Okay, and now Vimbai.
So I think creating like a positive board culture involves a lot of working as a team, and in working as a team you have to take, in my opinion, a different role. So sometimes that means being the leader, sometimes that means being the listener, and sometimes that means just being the follower. Like most people have said, and just to piggyback off of that, is that it's a lot of putting your feelings aside. I think I've done a lot of, my dad made me read a lot of stuff on emotional intelligence and going about things in a diplomatic manner. Sometimes things are said people hurt your feelings. Sometimes your teammates might not be the most sensitive people, but it's always good to know that we're representing SMU and we're representing you at the end of the day. You have to understand sometimes it's not intentional, but I think understanding each other and integrating well with everybody on your team will help us do a better job for the rest of the school. So that's what really matters, and that means working hard to achieve that. Thank you.
Okay, and Govinda.
For the contribution of positive board member, I will definitely work friendly with all the board members for updating policies, as I mentioned earlier, creating a new policies whenever we need, and I will definitely be accessible to all the students. I was really focused on accessible to students. As when I was first time in St. Mary's, I was really having trouble to get help. So I really want to make SMUSA the first option for every student in St. Mary's to be the place to get help from. So I will definitely be working with all the board members to work friendly and work for the SMUSA to make it better. Thank you.
Okay, now we're on to our last question. I hope you guys are thinking of the questions you're going to ask after this one. So the last pre-done question is question 6, which is, how have your on-campus experiences helped prepare you to serve as a member of the board of directors? And the first person answering this question is Pearl.
So actually, when I was talking about motivation, I began a story about how I came in as a first-year student, and basically me telling that story, I was talking about how hard it was for me to make friends, but that's me personally. But my main point was that took a toll on my mental health, and it was really hard to get out of that funk. And then I finally made my first friend, and she was telling me she was also from Kenya. I'm from Kenya, by the way. And she was telling me that she went through the same thing, that it was hard for her to travel to come to Canada. It was hard for her to make friends, and it really affected her mental health too. And she was telling me that she's had similar friends talk about the same thing. And my first thought was, why has no one ever warned us that this happens? Because I had never struggled with mental health before that. So that's just to say that I actually understand, maybe not fully because my experience is not similar to other people's experiences, but I have dealt with mental illness. And so I'm in a better position, I'd say, to understand the challenges that students are facing, especially international students and domestic students too. And then also another thing is that I was a residence assistant, which was out of my comfort zone, but I got to interact with new people, first years, most of them, and I got to get them to socialize and make friends.
That's your time.
Thank you.
Okay, and after Pearl, we have Jacob.
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. How have your on-campus experiences helped prepare you to serve as a member of the board of directors?
Yeah, so I'm a poli-sci student, so every day I go to class, I get to learn more about policies and what's working and what's not working around the world. I'm also the president of the SMU Model United Nations Society. Every year we have a huge task of raising a certain amount of money so that we can bring our group to New York for the National Model United Nations Conference. It's usually about $30,000 that we have to raise to bring the 20 people there. It's a lot of work. It takes a lot of meetings, a lot of emails, a lot of people from around the province, and it's really helped me realize how to do that and how to take on that burden of responsibility. As well as when I do go to the conference, it's a conference about building relationships and working with other people to get things done, to pass policies, to pass laws, to make the world a better place, even in this mock simulation. But it's about working together and finding ways, finding common ground between all of us that we can all agree on to make things better for everyone. I have quite a few friends on the SMUSA board of directors and the leadership group. And because of that, I've got to see what it's like on the inside, at least from the outside looking in. And I got to go to some fun events like Caravanza last year, which was incredible. It was great to see everything that happened there. There's so many dances and cool. Thank you very much.
Sometimes when we do that, it doesn't stay. There we go. All right, so now we have Joshua.
Good night again. I am privileged to I live here, for those of you who didn't know. So I'm pretty much on campus 24/7. And I kind of got the full brunt of what it is to be a student at St. Mary's University. I eat outside every day, sometimes 3 times a day, depending on my level of depression. I'm a student here, and I'm a very social person, so I don't want to say I have a lot of friends, but I'd like to think so. But I do interact with a lot of people on a daily basis, and that provides me with the opportunity to, kind of have informed opinions on certain things and how people feel about the way things work at this university. So I feel as though that in and of itself is an amazing asset to the board of directors, because you do want that feedback from the students. Because if you are going to be a board whose mandate is to represent the students' interests in whatever capacity you could, whether it be through policy, whether it be through, just keeping certain things in mind when you're making decisions, then who better to have than somebody who actually speaks to and, the word is really not coming, but it socializes with people that are going to be the people affected by the decisions that we make. I think that's it for me.
That's it. You just hit your time. Okay, and last, Govinda, you're the last of the preset questions. I'll say the question one more time, because this is the last of the preset questions. How have your on-campus experiences helped prepare you to serve as a member of the board of directors?
I'm very excited for these questions here. So, from the beginning, I have made a lot of friends, either helping them or getting help. So I have worked with diverse culture and then people from different backgrounds, communicating with them, helping to solve their minor problems or major problems, either getting help from them. So I think from that perspective, I am a suitable leader for them. I really want to be their voice. I really want to share their ideas. I know many of the students, they don't want to come forward and then share their ideas. I definitely want to be their voice. So thank you so much.
Okay, now Mr. CRO, do we have submitted questions?
We do. Does anyone have a question right off the top of their head? I'm just looking for, we have a couple. So maybe I want to maybe give some students a chance to ask, and then I'll throw in the mass week.
Okay, so first is you, and there was someone over here who was it? Okay, so you, then you. Go ahead.
What we're going to do, I'm just going to bring it straight over here. Please don't trip on this. They asked me not to run it across here.
All right, if you want to say it, I'll repeat it if you don't want to get up. Go ahead.
Okay, so my question was for Joshua and Brian. When you guys gave your introduction speech, there wasn't anything that I heard about your platform. Essentially, the questions that were asked were not really informed for what you have in mind as SMUSA board. So can you give us any highlight on what would your platform essentially be like?
Okay, so that's for Joshua and Brian?
Yeah.
Okay, so you each get a minute and a half to answer this, a minute to answer this question, which is, what is your platform for the SMUSA board? She wants a clarification. And Joshua, you go first.
Okay, really good question. Primarily, I want to focus on accessibility, i.e. making the board more accessible to these students. I think it's been kind of the silver lining from most of the things I said tonight. From speaking to a member on the board, I was from speaking to a member on the board, I was able to understand that not every single thing I want or I'm passionate about would actually come to fruition in the way that I expect. So there's certain things I'm really passionate about. I'm passionate about mental health. I'm passionate about, you know, the ideas surrounding consent. Because being in university, we do have a lot of sexual issues, so to speak, where people don't know how to approach people, etc., etc. There are many things I'm passionate about, but right now, for me and the board of directors, where that's concerned,
Nope, that's it. That's your minute. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Brian has a minute, and just so you know, even though you direct a question to two individuals, I do give everyone else a chance to answer it if they want to. So, Brian, it's your turn. You got a minute.
Yes, so like I mentioned before, what I'm focused on is to make students understand what the role of the board is for, what the board does for the people in whatever they do, and I don't go through the whole long-term thing again, because I've said it for like 3 answers now, but that's one of them. And the other is to continue to focus on cultural integration of students who are coming in, and like how they come in and work within the system. Because that's where I've come from, that's the background I've come from like the saga and the welcome experience designers. Thank you.
Okay, are any other board members wishing to answer that question? Okay, so we'll start here since Alice is close to you. Go ahead.
Garrety, thank you for giving me the opportunity to redeem myself after that first incident there. I believe in the mental health and the well-being of students. I think that our mental health is the most important health, and a lot of times it's forgotten about. But there's multiple ways to boost your mental health, you know, healthy eating, seeing psychologists, all sorts of things. I think another really healthy way is to be involved in club sports and societies. For me, obviously, as I've mentioned multiple times, I've been part of the golf team, and I think a lot of the costs are associated. I reached out to multiple club sport leaders, and the costs that are associated with these organizations that provide a lot of stress relief and give students sometimes that light at the end of the tunnel, the costs are enormous for students, and they get little to no support from the universities, or from the university.
Okay, thanks. Okay, who else said they wanted to answer this? All right, go ahead.
So, actually, I would just say, like, when it comes to accessibility, because I'm hearing this word again and again, I guess the best way it could best be accessible to everyone, for all the students, I guess. Just like we are having a debate right now, having all the board of directors here, upcoming board of directors here. So I guess what we can do is, like, we can just have once a month, we can just have the same setup, you know, having board of directors here, and it's an open house. Students can come, it can be a 2-hour session. They put their questions, which board of directors can answer right away, just answer them. Which they cannot, which they think they have to ask to their VP or president, then they could just take the email and the details of the person who's asking the question, and they can get back to them in future. I guess that's the best way it could be accessible. That's it.
Okay. Last one, go ahead.
I think we should have a meeting with both the board and the leadership team before the summer break to go over what we feel like should be the next annual goals, so that the president has a mind of what we feel is important and what we think needs to be done in the upcoming year. Also, I feel that we really, really do need to write an internal equity, diversity, and inclusion policy, and also to update the sustainability policy that we have right now.
Good, okay, so,
I'm going to run a mic to that stand. If someone wants a mic, if you want to just shout it, that's also good.
oh, but we have one more question up here. Yes, so you go ahead and I'll repeat your question.
Okay. I was going to say, a few of you spoke about communication tonight, and I was wondering what your plans were to improve communication and get information across to the student body. I
Okay, so the question is, what are you going to do to improve student communication, including social media, at SMUSA? And who would like to answer this question? Okay, so we'll start at the end there with Pearl.
So I think social media plays a very huge role in like getting connected to students, because I know the current board has done an amazing work trying to get the students to know about them. They have a website where they have their minutes for like their meetings and they have their policies there. But I know as a student you don't really have the time or the interest to like go and read a 92-page document about policies and all that. So I think social media is a huge way. Probably I'd say you can maybe even do simple things like creating posters to let people know that, yeah, we have a Facebook page, we have I know SMUSA doesn't have a Snapchat page, which is really huge in like university right now. So I think that's one way, I guess, we can get the word out. Yeah, creating a Snapchat page.
Okay, so just pass it this way, and as it comes down, anyone who wants to answer. Okay?
So, as I said earlier, like when it comes to communication, social media is definitely one of the most important things. But I do believe like face-to-face conversation, I guess nothing's better than that. So that's why I believe like we should have at least one session in a month where all the board of directors are either in McNally or Scotiabank Theatre and just answering the question for the students. Because I know there are students who are looking forward to this thing because I have talked about it. And personally, if I'll have something like this, an open house thing, I would love to go there. Even if I don't have any question, even if I don't have any problem, but I'll just go to listen to others. Because I believe and SMUSA has some very good resources. It's just that like many of us don't know about it. Till last year, I also didn't know about much of the resources. But now I'm getting involved and I'm getting to know, oh shit, I missed 2 years in SMUSA and I could have used those resources.
Okay, keep going.
So this question isn't something I put too much thought into, but did you guys know that SMU had like an app? Yeah, and like, I don't know if it's still there now, is it? No? But it actually had an app and I downloaded it when I first came to SMU because I was trying to meet other students. But I thought at the back of my mind, it would be really nice to have that app back and have different sections where we have SMU Sports, so we know what games are going on, SMU Health, what you can get on there, like on My Peak, that's a different app, or even a calendar where you can have your classes, or a calendar that's easily accessible to all students, because sometimes it's really hard to keep going through your emails and look through all the invitations that you'd been given, or all the events that are going on. So I think if we could get that app back and running, that would be really great. Also, students can get to know sometimes about competitions that will be happening. I worked at the Entrepreneurship Center, and a lot of the times all these things are happening and students had no idea that they were happening. So one good thing I think that we could potentially do that I hadn't really thought about, thanks for bringing that up, is getting that.
Here now. I don't know why it buzzes sometimes and doesn't others. You got me. Okay, keep going. Okay.
I think one thing about communications, it's very important to how SMUSA gets information out and how we interact with the student body in general. I think one idea that we could have is a town hall style meeting. Federal government does these all the time. You'll see them, especially on the liberal side, where you just go into a room, you have a board, you have a question, write it down, and you discuss it. I think often having conversations with people instead of talking at people and lecturing to people is often a better way to create policy and discuss issues. As for getting information out such as events, I agree with the SMU app. I think I remember I had it. It wasn't the greatest. I think if we put the revenue into that and developed it properly and had push notifications, I think that would be better for all.
Okay. Other questions from the crowd? Okay, so go ahead,
Yeah,
Mitch.
so this is one. So I fielded, thank you for everyone who wrote your questions in. I fielded, I think, with my experience, some of the ones we get a lot, and I think as a former board member, some of the questions I got very consistently. The top one is, what can the board do, if anything, to lower tuition fees specifically for international students?
Okay, so do you get that question? What can the board do specifically to lower student fees specifically for international students? Who would like to answer this question? Okay.
Having looked through the minutes for the previous meetings, I've come to know that SMUSA works in conjunction with students in Nova Scotia, and this is a board that lobbies for students. As I was saying, this is a board that lobbies for students, students' challenges in whatever they go through. So like, issues like tuition, textbooks, everything you can think of, these people have, and they're working on it. So, in order to solve this problem for the international students, because I didn't see that mentioned, just for the international students in general, the board, in conjunction with students in Nova Scotia, can continue to lobby the government to reduce these or maintain these tuition fees. Thank you.
Okay, keep passing it down. Anyone else who would like to answer this question?
So being an international student, all I know right now is like I'm paying almost double the amount, and that's a lot, to be very honest. Because if you go out and earn, because we international students, to be very honest, one thing that is really bad is like we are just allowed to work 20 hours a week, and right now, if you see around Halifax, you can't even rent an apartment within that hours a week. So I believe, I don't know about the tuition fees, how can you lower it down, but what we can do is we can actually lower down some expenses like the textbooks. We can do free textbooks, and like it should be like if I'm having a commercial law course, I can have a free textbook, but there should be one condition, like once I'm done with the course, I have to return it to the same department with the ID and everything. If I'm not returning it, I'll be fine. Because that way, actually we are using that resource and giving it back to use it for future. I guess there can be more.
That's it. That's your time. Okay. Anyone else on this question? No? Okay. Got another one there, Mitch?
Sure. What do you think that the current board or a recent board of SMUSA did well, and how would you continue that work?
Does anyone want to answer that question?
I think the current board has done a fantastic job of representing SMUSA on the Senate and also the Board of Governance. They've done an incredible job, and they've really represented us really well, and always making us look really good.
As I know, most of the board members who are at my board of directors, and I know them because some of them are my friends, some of them are in my classes. I guess the job that they have done, it's the reason why actually we all are sitting right now here. Otherwise, till last year I never had a thought that I will run for boards. It's just because these people have done something and it has reflected. So now it's time to reciprocate, that's it. In a very good way. And we will do it if we get it.
Okay. Anyone else want to answer this question?
So the number of things that SMUSA has done, both the board and the president's side of SMUSA, are so many. So I'm only going to mention a few. We recently got the 5th floor of the student center. That wasn't there when I got here. That's a very good learning space, and it also facilitates a number of society meetings. The other thing is they've really tried to focus on students, and I'm aware their theme is student success. So they've really done all these things, like you always find people in the sub giving you like free snacks. You get massages in the library. you get all sorts of SMUSA stuff. Yeah, I think that's
good. Okay. All right. Now do I have some from the floor? Okay, please come up to the mic because it's, and just line up behind one another, and then I don't have to play this bingo game. Okay, go ahead.
So there's been mention of, I think a few of you, about like an equity, diversity, and inclusion policy for SMUSA specifically. So I'm just curious, for all of you, what kind of inclusions would be in that policy, what it would govern, and kind of generally what that policy would be about.
Okay, who wants to answer this question? All right, go ahead.
I just feel that we need more formal representation of all the different minorities that we have here at SMUSA. Honestly, I feel like it's something the board would need to discuss. I don't have any concrete plans for it, but I feel like paid positions for the LGBTQ, Indigenous, African Nova Scotian positions at SMU, where they would be able to advocate for things that are important to them. That obviously me as a white cis male, like I'm not able to do that. I don't know. So I feel that we need to make making SMUSA diverse a priority, and I think that comes to that policy. Thank you.
Okay.
So I think one of the ways this policy can work is when it comes to resources, because we have certain student societies that are keyed to focusing on diversity. We have, I don't know exactly what happened with the African Society, but I'd say that what an equity policy would do would be maybe to guarantee resources for certain societies so they can continue to celebrate their diversity, whether it's in sexual orientation or race or gender or any sort of thing. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
So I guess when it comes to policies, what I think is since I'm myself an event planner, so I guess there can be more multicultural events on campus, which would help actually people to know more about other culture. Because to be very honest, when I go downtown and when I listen Bollywood song, I know there are so many people who just don't understand it but still dance on it. So I believe, yes, there are people who are looking forward to more multicultural events, and I myself wanna know, how does the Arab music sounds, because I have just listened to it in someone's story now. So that's why I'm looking forward to it. And I guess there should be more multicultural events.
Okay, to piggyback from Abhinav's comments, I think that we should be proud as a university to boast roughly 1/3 of a population of international students. And it's a statistic that you don't really see across Canada in the way, especially Atlantic Canada, in the way that you do here. And I feel as though it was a real selling point for me coming here, because I knew that if I came here, I could be comfortable, because there are going to be people who are coming from all across the world who are going to be just as uncomfortable as I am. So it's like, I feel it, so on Abhinav's comment with the music and planning events and stuff, I feel as though we don't promote music as much as we should. I think there is a music society here, but it's not as active as it could be, or it's not well promoted, so to speak. So I feel as though SMUSA as an organization could really get behind that initiative, and that looks like time.
Yeah, you got 3 seconds. Okay, anyone else on this one?
Regarding the issue of integration, I would suggest policies that create focus groups in which students who volunteer or feel that they're underrepresented can come up and talk to the SMUSA representatives or whoever is out there. So like organizing focus events or something of the sort. Thank you.
Do you want to answer? Fine, okay. Up to you.
Cool. So a lot of you have a lot of really great points. But being a current board member, I know sitting in meetings, there's been a lot of things that as a board we want to change. You know, we worked, we campaigned, a lot of us were youth last year. And so then we get into the position where like, hey, we want to do these things. But we're SMUSA, we're not St. Mary's. There's a difference between St. Mary's and what SMUSA can do. So a lot of you have a lot of really great points, but some of them SMUSA can't control. So my question is, do you understand the difference between the power of what SMUSA can do and what St. Mary's University is responsible to do?
So we'll start at this end and work our way that way this time.
Thanks for the question, Adam. A great question, great point as well. I think that a lot of times in campaigns, especially in the style, people often make promises they can't keep. I think it's important as candidates that we understand the policies that SMUSA has, what governance they have. And a big part of that is why me personally, why I haven't released the platform. Part of that is understanding it, is reading through it, looking more into it, understanding the role that SMUSA does play in student life, and that the university and SMUSA are complete opposite. They're not the same. Although it's important that SMUSA works with the university as well as the Senate to better student life for all. I think, like I said, I think it was very important that we know the difference.
Thank you. Okay, I just want to start by saying God is good, because that question feeds there. I was asked about my platform earlier and I couldn't finish my sentence because of time, which means I should hurry up. But essentially, I believe my role at this point in time, because I don't know what the current plans of the board are in full detail, so it's kind of to make sure that I as a person am as adaptable as I could be and willing to work with the goals and the objectives that are already stipulated by the board, and understand that it is my responsibility to potentially make contributions to future goals and objectives. But I feel as though first and foremost my prime responsibility is to ensure that I'm a team player. I'm coming into an organization that's pretty much already established in who is there, and is to just be helpful with pertaining to the groundwork. And yes, I do understand the differences between St. Mary's University and SMUSA, and that is as...
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think one thing I'm never even afraid to do is admit that sometimes I don't know. And that's the truth. I feel like sometimes the lines can be blurred between what the role of SMUSA is and what the role of St. Mary's University is. So, we have the policies and guidelines, which is very thick. I have it right here. And most of us did try to go through as much of it as we could, but sometimes you don't cover everything and the lines are blurred between what SMUSA is supposed to do and what SMUSA is supposed to do. But I think what's important is just to dream and to try, and even if we do get shot down and say this is out of our control, I think it's still important to bring those ideas out. And sometimes SMUSA does get blamed for things that they're not in control of, and that's where communication comes in, and we tell the students, hey, this is what we do, this isn't what we do. But for ideas, why I feel like people should still come with the ideas and shouldn't be afraid. Failure is not a bad thing. You come, you say, hey, you need to do this, and you say, okay, I'm sorry, we would have, but it's out of our reach. So I think, probably getting better knowledge of what SMUSA.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else on this question? Okay.
So I guess being the president for society, one of the societies in SMUSA, when we go to tell them like I need to open up a society, I guess they need some signatures. So I guess if SMUSA is not okay, if there's a problem coming in between SMUSA and SMU, I guess to make that event possible or to make that thing possible, what we can do is like we can sign petitions. Because I guess if most of the students are agreeing for it, I don't think so SMU will also stop us. But yeah, definitely there are some restrictions within which we have to work, within which SMUSA has to work, and I totally agree to your point because yes, running a society, I believe, like I realized it, like yeah, there are restrictions, and that's the reason why I started my own company outside so that I can actually throw events off campus. But yeah, I guess there are some, ways through which we can make it happen. Thanks.
Yeah, to answer that question, the distinction between the two would be that SMUSA looks after advocacy of students and also making sure student life is good. It's about that, but also a further distinction is the board of directors versus leadership and the rest of SMUSA. There's a big difference there, and I feel like some people have the lines blurred. When it comes to having events for multicultural nights and stuff like that, or working with societies, that's not really in the scope of the board. I mean, we do it, they do it sometimes, it happens, but it's usually when they're asking for larger amounts of money. It wouldn't be making more events happen or anything like that. That is not what the board does. The board job is to have the direction of SMUSA and to write policy and to watch over the president. On that, something I forgot earlier, something great that the board did this year is start auditing the president again. Doesn't happen for a few years, started doing it again this year. It means they're asking questions about the financials every year, and it's fantastic.
Thank you.
1 second to go, good job. Okay.
Okay, so in my introduction, I made a very bold claim, and that was forming a sexual health and wellness committee. And when I checked your SMUSA policies, correct me if I'm wrong, but it said the board can be able to form an ad hoc committee. Is that true? So that can happen? Yeah? Okay. So yeah, I was thinking that because we are the ones who are tasked with like hosting Welcome Week events, we can maybe incorporate sexual education and awareness into that and teach first-year students about their rights and about the resources that they can access and all that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, next question. Wait a second, you already had one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to go after the other people that haven't had one yet. Otherwise, it's not fair. Sorry, I should have told you that at the beginning.
So first of all, it was a really, really good speech, and I just have a question. So I'm a voter, right? So how can I be sure that the promises that you're saying you will actually fulfill it?
Okay, did you guys understand that? He wants to know, how are you good for your word? How does he know that what you say you're going to do, the promises you give, that you're actually going to do them? So where's the mic? All right, we'll start with you, Pearl, and come this way. All right?
I'm going to say that the best way to know is check the minutes in the website. Maybe you can check them and find out, are they actually trying to do the things that they said they were trying to do? If you find out we're not doing it, or we're not even talking about it, then you can reach out to us on Facebook or on Instagram or anywhere and ask us what happened to the plan that you said you wanted to do. Are you still doing it? Yeah.
Honestly, there's quite a few people on the board, and I'm just one voice. I have my goals, I have things I want to accomplish, but none of us can promise anything. Any of us say that we're going to promise something, we're lying. We can try our best. I promise to try my best. There are certain things that I would like to have happen, but it's all very general things because it'd be unfair to you guys to promise anything specific.
Okay, so I would just relate it to sports, because I know you're a sportsman and I know you'll be able to understand it better. So, okay, when there's a Nadal and Federer game going on and someone asks you before the game, who's gonna win? You might choose Federer or Nadal, right? You might choose one, right? But you never know. Let's say you chose Federer and Nadal won. Not your fault. Maybe next time you will just choose another one. But the thing is, where I'm trying to get is like, we sitting here today, we can actually try our best. That's why we are here, and we will try our best. If you think we are lacking somewhere, you are a student, you have all the rights. You can come up to the board, you can go to the chair, you can go to the vice chair, you can go to the president, and I guess they will hear you. And if they found it, like we are not doing our job well, I guess, yes, we can get people from our job.
Okay, so I know I wasn't somebody who would have made broad promises tonight or anything of the sort, but your question has substance, and a lot of people may feel the same way or have similar questions. So I'm just going to use this as an opportunity to just tell you all, if this is going to sound like slightly dogmatic, but it's a saying that I keep in the back of my head all the time whenever it comes to elections. But if you choose not to vote, you kind of lose the right to complain. And that if the people you put in place do rubbish and you know you voted for them, you can scrutinize them, you could quarrel, you could do whatever it takes to get them removed from the position that they're in. But if you didn't vote, then you didn't effect change. So don't use uncertainty as a reason not to vote. To the rest of you candidates, to the other candidates, I just want to urge you to try to stay to your word as much as you possibly could. That feels like a minute.
Yeah, 3 seconds.
All my views have been by the other candidates.
Okay.
I think accountability is a major issue, and I thank you for your question. I think it's an important topic. Holding the board accountable is definitely an important thing. Like I mentioned earlier about having town hall and the type meetings. I think that if you have something like that where you discuss with the board your issues, and if somebody up here says something that they don't bring forward the election, well then that's on them. I think as a person, I can comfortably say that anybody on this, in this campaign, I think what they're saying is their ideas. I think they want to bring these ideas forward because it benefits not only themselves, their friends, but the future of the association.
Okay.
Okay, good night everyone. Oh.
Turn it off.
Pull the switch towards you. There you go.
Thank you. Good night everyone. So this question is directed to Jacob, but everyone can answer. So the question is, specifically to Jacob, in your campaign you mentioned that the board needs to focus on monitoring the spending of the association. So with that, what type of policies would you implement that are not already in place?
I'm sorry, could you say that one more time? I didn't quite
Of
get
course,
it.
I'll give it to you.
Okay.
She wants to know what policies for monitoring these expenditures of SMUSA are not in place that you wish to see in place. Because I write down the questions. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, then go for it.
So that's not entirely what my campaign is about. I just want to reduce redundancies. I feel that when the board is focusing on helping out with the day-to-day stuff as well as the long-term, then we're not quite using what we have as best we can. And I feel that by creating a more strategic plan, we could make sure that we're doing the things that have the greatest impact. So it's not about stopping funding or anything like that. It's more about making sure that we are prioritizing things that we feel will have the greatest impact on the student body. Like I said, in strategic planning, it's always said that 20% of what you do has 80% of the effect. I want to make sure that we are doing that 20% and that we're making the biggest difference we can with the work that we're doing. And I think that by doing that, we got to figure out what do we want to accomplish in 10 years? If we want to accomplish that in 10 years, what do we have to do in 5? What do we have to do in 4? What do we have to do in 3? What do we have to do in 2? And to do that, I think also meeting with the president and speaking to her about her annual plan would be helpful.
Okay. Does anyone else want to answer that question even though it was directed at one person? Okay, good, thank you.
question is also for Jacob, but anyone else can answer just because this is your platform. So you had said that you want to refocus the board to its original goal of policy work and presidential oversight instead of overlapping with the executive team and day-to-day operations. So could you give some examples of those daily operations that the board has been doing this year and what you would like to do to change that next year if you're elected?
Yes. It was mostly that was directed towards, I was at the annual general meeting, at least that sentence was directed toward, and Crystal was talking about advocacy and stuff like that, during that, and I know that that is a position at SMUSA during the leadership. That is something that is happening, and I feel that by the board focusing on that instead of allowing them to do it themselves, because we're paying someone to do that, we are, it is redundancy and we'd be wasting money to do that. Or at least wasting our resources. Again, I feel that the important thing is that we focus on the things that will have the greatest impact. I understand that the Plain Language Initiative it is great. That's been going on for at least 3 years now that I know. I think it's important, but I think more important than that is making sure that we're creating new policies and updating existing policies, like our policy regarding sustainability and our policies regarding diversity. So it's just about using our resources in the most effective way.
Okay.
I just want to remind people having a conversation, even as I start to speak, that your fellow students take a lot of courage to get up here, and it's very disrespectful to have a conversation with someone speaking with the mic. So if we could take it outside if you have something to say, that's not related to this.
Thank you. Anyone else want to answer this question? Oh, Alex does. Okay, we'll pass the mic down to Alex.
Thank you for your question. I wasn't directed towards me, but I think it is an important conversation in terms of, from what I outlined from the budget, SMUSA is fairly liquid. Although we did have some negative expenditures, we were really positive, had a positive balance. I think building a better today creates a better future. I think focusing on how we can make our association stronger today while being financially responsible is important. I think focusing on the day-to-days as well as focusing on the future is important. I think, although it is very important for, like I said, it is very important for the association to plan for the future, to focus its finances on the future. I think it's also important that we look at what we can invest in today. Making investments into societies, making investments into, like I said before, club sports, into the mental health of students is more important than I think numbers. I think as long as we remain financially responsible while still providing services and benefits to students, I think that we're doing a good job.
Okay, you're done.
Is there any way I can have a vote?
You get 30 seconds if you want to, yeah? Does anyone else want to speak up? Well, you already came down, so great. You get 30 seconds, go ahead.
Yeah, again, I just want to say there are different parts of SMUSA and different parts that do different things. The role of the board is to be forward-looking, create the vision, and decide the direction of SMUSA. It's to create policy. It's not necessarily to work with societies all the time. There's a society coordinator right now that does that. There's a VP societies normally. Although, yes, we do give society funding, it'd be after 2,500 that we are doing that sort of thing. And it's really just not necessarily the job of the board.
That's your 30 seconds. Good job. Okay, did you want to last 30 seconds? Okay, and then that's it.
I think by investing into those societies and building its leadership group, it allows not only for people that aren't on the SMUSA board to educate themselves on how to develop policy, on how to fundraise, grow budgets. I think that it's an educational experience, and I think that SMUSA being involved heavily in societies, and although yes, I agree the board's outlook is towards the future, I think the future of the societies benefits greatly when it's directly invested in.
Next question.
Okay, thank you for. Before my questions, I want to ask all candidates: has anyone attended board meetings as a guest? Please put your hands up.
Okay, so this is a yes/no question. Who has attended a board meeting? Put your hand up.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Sorry, actually my question is that one. It's not this one is not the questions.
Okay, sorry, I can't understand what you're saying.
So,
Turn the mic on. I thought you said put your hands up if you had attended a board meeting.
So as a board member, the most important thing is not your IQ, not your social networking ability or communication skills, it's your attitudes. So my question is, if you are the board member, what you will bring it to our all SMU students and SMUSA? Attention, all SMU students and SMUSA.
Okay, so as a board member, what is it that you're bringing to everyone, not just those that you're socially networked with? Is that your question?
I think it's what you want to be, like what you want to give us or give all SMU students and SMUSA the benefits or others you can bring.
Okay, I think this is going to be a fairly short question, but who would like to answer that question? Okay, I'll sit down. Maybe you start there. Starts with you.
Okay, so one quality that I have is that I like to play devil's advocate. So not everything I say I agree with, but I just feel like for the purposes of democracy, it's important that you have diverging opinions on many different topics and issues. And I feel as though that's something that I bring to the table because realistically speaking, not to be like a narcissist, but not everybody is of that capability. Not everybody is able to defend views that they don't necessarily agree with. But it is important for any governing organization that you kind of understand how other people may feel, even if they're not things that you can identify with. I think another thing that I bring is I'm very particular. Like I have a deep understanding of the English language, and I understand context. And I feel as though for human beings, sometimes that also can pose to be an issue. And I feel that's me again.
Okay. You asked, you looked up. Okay, go ahead.
I think one thing I've been able to do is integrate myself with different people, societies, races, ethnicities around SMU and talk to people. I've never been afraid to go and ask. Like before kind of the campaign started, I was asking students all over SMU, just like, what are some of the issues that you're facing? What are some of the hardships that you're facing? And like, if someone is running for a board of directors, how can we implement that? Sometimes it's easy to just, for me personally, if I see a group of Black students together, I naturally want to go and be with the Black African students. But I learned that in this position, you have to compromise that and talk to every single person. I've been talking to students from Middle East, I've been talking to students from India, students from Africa, students from all over the world, South America, and just asking them some of the challenges they face. Some of the Asian students say they would like more options for translations on the school website because it's not easy for everyone to go on the SMU website and find what they're looking for because it's English. Is there French? I don't know if there's French or whatever, but there is a large number of students that do speak Mandarin or a large number of students that do speak Bengali or different.
I believe when everyone's gonna walk out of SMU after their degrees, I guess what they'll be looking back, like how was their experience. So I guess what we as a board member, I won't say in this question as a board member, what we as SMUSA can do is like we can make their experience, their university life, the best time of their lives, and just by not just listening to them and maybe whatever they want, whatever resources they want, whatever events they want, and if they want some good food options, because I know there's not much food options at Dockside, and I have, being an international student, acquiring a taste. I tried sushi, I didn't like it yet. I'm still trying to acquire the taste, and I might not like it in future too. So I want my food to be there in Dockside too. If there's pasta, if there's pizza, if there's soup, if there's cereals, then why cannot be there a chicken curry?
I think the thing I bring most is it's what I learned in my Model UN conferences. It's you're not going there to help yourself. You're going there to pass something and all work together to make something good happen. The most important thing is just to check your ego at the door. Like, obviously I'm coming in here with ideas, but I'm not on the board. I don't know what you guys are doing. When I get there and you tell me that something I'm saying is completely dead wrong, I'm going to be happy to hear that because I'm happy to learn about that. It's just, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
As it is a student association and being from a diverse culture and interacting with people from different culture and background, I have felt that we go through many problems in our first year and then second year. And then I did solve my problems, but not through SMUSA. But after solving my problem, I realized that SMUSA has all our resources that could help my problem. So I really want to make those resources accessible. I don't mean they are not accessible to students now. I want to make those resources more accessible to the students so that we can help and then we can make their university life easier so that they can remember after graduating from here. Thank you.
That's it? Okay. Thank you. She asked her question before you asked your first question?
No, I didn't ask any questions.
Okay, sorry, go ahead then.
Sure.
Yeah, you go right after him, that's good.
Yeah,
All right.
so actually Henry asked a really good question for you all, and I think Jacob, you had your hand up, but I'm pretty sure I haven't seen you in any of our board meetings. Anyways, mine is more into like information for you because I've been hearing a lot about town halls or meetings once a month or whatever. The board of directors, we actually have monthly meetings that actually students can come and listen to our reports, our president report, and they'll have the chance to ask us questions, as well as we have our office on the 5th floor of the sub-building, and we're always there. You can come and talk to us. But other than that, yeah, thank you very much.
So no question?
No question.
Don't do that again. Okay.
Yo, can I answer? Just because you kind of called me out.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
This is my 4th year. Like I've been here for years. Like, I understand that but I had been to board meetings in my first 2 years. I did not go these last 2 years, but I have been there and just ask a question.
Yeah.
Call me out.
Does anyone else have a comment that they want to make on this? No? Okay. You're the last question? Okay, and then Mitch is going to Mary has one after you? Okay.
You can go first. You go wait.
You go ahead.
Okay.
You go ahead.
Okay, so we've actually heard about changes and wanting to make an impact, all about sustainable policies, or be it mental health, or opportunities, equal opportunities to all international and domestic students, accessibility. There are a lot of bold things. SMUSA is doing, I feel they're doing enough, and I won't say enough, but they're doing a lot right now to make all of those things accessible to all the students, be it through their social media, apps, I would say pages, and they have Wellness Week for those for mental health, which I think Mary just brought up. Then there are welcome weeks, there are other things too. What is it that you guys have or are wanting to put in that is already not there? That is being done by SMUSA. So what is it that you want to do that is not being done by SMUSA rather than just running what SMUSA is doing? Because everybody wants to make a change, but there are other things in mind that you would want to use to make that change.
Okay, so what is something each of you wants to do that SMUSA is not already doing? I'd say start at the end with Pearl and pass the mic this way. You can pass if you don't want it, or I would say if you've got one thing, that would be enough, or two if you need to, but just keep it to that. Okay, go ahead.
So just one thing? Okay. So I'm going to admit I haven't checked the minutes for the meetings that they had. But one thing that I want to do, I already talked about forming the committee, but I also want to try and have, but I want to have sanitary bins in the residence, because that's a complaint I've had from so many people. I also want to try to have a variety of sanitary pads and tampons in C-store, I also want to try and have condoms accessible in the C-store. And I want to try to promote STD testing among students. Yeah.
Being a board member of SMUSA, I would like to focus on food variety. Because being an engineering student, almost I spend from 8:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. from Monday to Friday. And then every day I got either Tim's food court or I have to go to the dockside. So for almost 4 months, repeating same thing and eating same thing, I got bored for 2 years. So if I got chance, I would really focus on bringing some new fast food or some food variety inside the SMU. Thank you.
Just to Pearl, most of those things would not be under the view of the board. What I would do be, I would write, I would try to help write a internal equity, diversity, inclusion policy. And what was the question again? So sorry.
So the question is, you've got 20 seconds left, so I'll rephrase your question. What is something that you would do that the current SMUSA board is not doing?
And I would try to prepare for voluntary student unionism.
No, not till everybody else has spoken. Who wants to speak? Good.
Thank you very much for the question, and it kind of goes with what you asked earlier, what you asked me and him, I believe. And I'd like to say that the work that the board does, like he said, is more of a long-term process. So like the things that they've done, we don't know them yet. We can't be sure until later on. So I'll give you an example. Elections. They made some changes, they amended some policies. We cannot see that until after the elections, when we realize what they've done. And so the only answers I can give you, honestly, is what I can try to focus on when I get it there. And like I said before, cultural integration. Thank you very much.
I think you make a very good point there where you said, what can we promise without overreaching, without saying things that quite clearly aren't under SMUSA provisions. I think that's been a topic that we've had all night of, what does SMUSA do? And I think that it's important that when as candidates, like I said earlier, when we run, that we are clear on the provisions of SMUSA. I think it's important that candidates have policy, their platform. One thing that I would like to do, like I've said before, is I'd like to invest in mental health initiatives, and I strongly believe that mental health is affected positively by a healthy lifestyle, and that includes club sports. I will be releasing a full policy on social media in the coming week.
Okay, and if Pearl would like one 30-second rebuttal, and then you can pass it back. If anyone else wants 30 seconds after Pearl, let me know. Otherwise, we'll leave the mic up there and do the next question. All right.
Okay, sorry for not being clear. I didn't mean that the board was the one that was supposed to fund for any of that stuff. I just meant that we are the ones who are representing the students and advocating for them to St. Mary's University. So I want to be there to advocate for the students and the residents to be able to get those resources. Yes.
Okay, anybody else want a 30-second rebuttal on this? Yeah? Okay.
So, in my opinion, I think SMUSA and the board are doing a really great job. The work that they're doing right now, the work that they've been doing over the past couple of years has been really great. And maybe it comes across as though we don't think that they're doing a great job. I think we do, and that's why we want to be a part of their team. There's always room for improvement, and why I'm here is to say, how I can add value to that. They're doing a good job, but it's not enough for me to say, okay, I just want to be a part of that good job that you're doing. How can we add value to what they're doing now? We have policies that are in place, but those policies can be overlooked. Times are changing. Things that were part of policies, even government, parliament, wherever it may be, 10 years ago.
That was your 30 seconds, because we had already moved to another round.
I did. Oh, okay.
That's why I said first.
So, yeah.
Okay. All right, next question. Thank you for the question. It's a good question.
Hi, good night. Thank you to all the candidates for coming out. I've heard a lot of really interesting ideas. All of them are great ideas, really. But I just want to be clear that everyone understands the difference between operations, which the executive team does, which deals with the day-to-day life of the students, and what the board does, which is dealing with policy, holding the president accountable, and looking at the way the organization is structured. And it's really a yes or no question for everyone if they understand the difference between those two things.
Okay, so I like it when we get a yes or no question, because that means you guys have to give yes or no answers. Do you understand the difference between the operations side, which is run by the president and the executive, and the governance side, which is run by the board? So answer yes or no, and pass it on.
Yes.
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 No.
Almost yes, but
Yes.
No.
Kinda, maybe.
Hey. I love yes no questions because we have to do that. Okay, go ahead.
For those who said that they will hold the president next year accountable, how will you do that?
Okay, so start with you, Pearl. Anyone who wants to answer, just pass the mic. If you don't want to answer, pass it on. So how will you hold the president accountable next year?
Just as Jacob mentioned, it's auditing and checking the spending of the president and making sure that they're spending it on things that actually matter and add value.
Honestly, just continuing with the great initiative that the board has put in this year to start auditing the president, and then maybe making it even more specific, asking more specific questions about exactly where each penny and cent is going. I know you guys did a great job this year, but I mean, we can always improve.
I think as was questioned earlier, questioned multiple times tonight, obviously the role of the board on top of looking towards the future is holding the president accountable. I think that the three candidates running, Bren, Sophia, and I'm sorry if I pronounce this wrong, but Salvin. Close? Good, okay. I think they're all three excellent candidates. I think they all have their best interests of SMUSA in mind. And I, like I said, obviously keeping the president accountable. I think this board's done a good job. I think Mary's done a good job as president, and I think the board's done a good job in stepping in if needed. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so if no one else stands up now, then I'm cutting it off. All right, so Mary will be the last question. And then we will draw for the fabulous prizes. Okay.
Cool. So again, a lot of you have a lot of great points in what you want to do. But the board structure runs through committee work, mostly. So, we go over things as committees, policy-related things go through HR and governance committee, which I chair. Also, a lot of the things that you have mentioned are in the process. So, actually, this weekend we're having a big HR and governance committee meeting, going over almost all the policies.
Do you have a question in there?
Oh, I do. So, just as when you're running, people often don't mention what committees that they're interested in, if you're interested in finance, whatever. So, going forward, what committees would you be interested in working on under SMUSA's board of directors?
Excellent question. Okay, so I want everyone to answer this. Start here and go to that direction. What committees would you like to work on SMUSA?
I'm not completely familiar with every single committee that SMUSA has. I mean, I've been pretty clear on what issues I have. I think obviously engagement's a major issue. Financial spending, being fiscally responsible is another issue that I believe in, as well as mental health, society engagement. So at this time, I wouldn't say exactly what committees I would, but as I mentioned before, I use social media as a main part of my platform. And within the week, I'll be updating my full platform as well as any interest in social media. So thanks.
So again, the question is, what committees would you like to serve on the SMUSA board?
Before I answer that, I would just like to say that generally I'd like to focus on anything that brings students together. So going from that, I would say any committee like the HR or the elections committee.
Primarily, I'm interested in being on the HR and governance committee, but as I said previously countless times, I'm flexible and I'm willing to work wherever everybody on the board sees fit.
I would love to go for the societies committees because, being already involved in a society, I believe I can improve the things that I thought wasn't there with me. But then, yeah, definitely when I get in, I know you guys also have some restrictions. So I guess even if I won't be able to improve it, at least I'll get that satisfaction. Okay, that's why they couldn't do it. I'll find my reason.
Second, just because I feel like that's where my abilities would shine best, if it's where I can have the greatest impact on student life.
My interest is society committee, but I also wanted to say that I don't know if anyone else is feeling it, but I'm feeling under attack by the current board members, because we're trying to bring in fresh ideas, and maybe we're not qualified. We haven't been on the board for like 1 year or 2 years. We don't know the complexities of what occurs there, and we're relying on you to teach us on what to do and like to let us know that this is where this goes, this is not our responsibility and all that. Like here where we are right now, none of us has been a board of director member yet, so we don't really know the complexities, and you're assuming that we know how all your operations run. We don't. Yeah.
He wants his 30 seconds first. So come back. Does anyone else want an additional 30 seconds on this topic? To start down there rather than spend all this time passing the mic back and forth?
Yeah, sure, I'll take that.
Yeah.
I disagree. I mean, I'm thankful for the board's questions. I feel like they're trying to let the student body know who is prepared for this and who has done the research and who knows what they're trying to get into. So thank you very much for the questions.
I believe I don't know how she felt, but to be very honest, if you're putting these questions right now, I guess you're preparing and you are in a way teaching us for future. And I guess because if I'm having this question right now, I might just go home tonight and think about it and look into it. Because otherwise, if you haven't asked me this question, I might not have even thought about it.
I'd like to share similar sentiments. We can understand why the board would ask us questions in the way in which they're asking us the questions, because you want to make sure that whoever comes on board knows what they're getting into, and it doesn't, like, preparation is key for anything that you're actually interested and passionate about. And yes, it's normal for us to experience surprises, but they shouldn't be to the extent at which they were. I personally didn't feel attacked. I didn't interpret anything as an attack tonight. I just assumed that the board was trying to find the best fit for the job.
Okay, time. Go ahead. Anyone else with their 30 seconds?
Just to reiterate what Jake and Josh said, I agree to the fullest extent of that. Asking the tough questions is what determines who the right candidate is for you. As much as, it is hard to take questions from somebody who is on the board, there's a little bit of pressure there. This is somebody that you're going to have to work with. If you're elected, I think asking the tough questions chooses who's best candidate.
No, that's it. Hang on for a second. Go ahead. No, they answered your question, unless you've got a follow-on question that's related, and I can't see here. You're going to get one out of that, so I'm doing you a favor. Go ahead.
First of all, I'd like to say that all of our meetings are also online.
Is there a question in here?
But there is a question in here, of course. And it is a yes or no question, because everyone wants to go now. Part of the role of the board is to focus on the long term, and this really big with continuity. That's why the board is a 2-year operation as opposed to 1 year like the executive. I am just curious to how many of you are able to commit to the 2 years on the board.
Excellent question, and I'm going to rephrase that because every year I end up giving someone a lecture on this, and it's not fun, trust me. You don't want to be that person. Will you commit that if you are elected, you will stay for your 2-year term? And the answer is yes or no, and there's no hedging, and there's no maybes, and there's no nothing. It's a yes, I will commit, or no, I will not. Go ahead.
Obviously, yes.
Read out the modifiers. Go ahead.
Yes.
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 This is recorded somewhere?
100%.
That is awesome.
It is documented.
You rock. Okay, Mary with the last question.
Hi everyone, thanks for being here. My last question is, I've heard here is that you do hold the president accountable, you do work closely related with the president, but sometimes as future board members, you are not going to agree sometimes with what the president will do or wants to do. And sometimes the board disagrees or agrees. So I want to know, how would you maintain a healthy relationship with the president-elect, and how would you continue and voice all students, all concerns or good things about all SMU students on campus, and make sure that things are done in a year? Since, remember, you have 2 years, but the president only has 1 year. So how are you going to maintain a healthy relationship and without the board when you agree or disagree? And how are you going to communicate that with the president-elect?
Okay, so I am going to ask you to answer her question, but I'm also letting you know that at the end of this, because there's no more questions now, each of you gets 1.5 minutes to sum up what you want people to remember about you. And I have an order here which I'll be going through, but I just want to make sure you have that time in your head. So, yes. Yeah, I've got the 3 of them marked here, and they get it in their 1.5 minutes at the end. Thank you. I did actually write them down. Okay, so how are you going to maintain a healthy relationship with the president-elect? Start with the mic and come this way.
So I'm going to say I'm not expecting to agree on every single thing that, like, disagreements happen, and I am prepared for that. And yeah, I don't see why you should completely stop working with someone after you disagree, because there's a bunch of other things you agree on, so you can maybe focus on the areas where you agree and like work towards that. Yeah.
It's all about finding things that we can agree on. Obviously, there's going to be things that we don't figure out. I mean, me and Mary don't agree on everything already.
But whoever is the president next year, I'm sure there'll be things that we disagree on. We're not all the same people. But as long as we can try to work through that, look at the facts, and not think about just our feelings, be open to change, but not seek change needlessly, I think we'll be able to find a good balance there.
I believe if someone if one of us disagrees, so I guess we are at this level and we are at this professional institution, and being a president or being a board is itself a very professional thing, and I guess we'll be mature enough to, at least if we are disagreeing to something, I guess we'll do something which is for the best interest of the students, keeping that disagreements. Okay, let's say if 6 is not, you are disagreeing I won't do A. I'm saying okay, I won't do B. So actually we can do C. Because there are solutions, there would be solutions which would be the best interest for students. And at the end of the day, it's not board and it's not president, it's SMUSA. And if SMUSA is working for the students, I guess we should first consider the students and not within ourselves. We should not think of ourselves first, for students.
That's your time.
Being an RA, dealing with mediations and having a lot of conflict resolution, training, you tend to find that there's always a diplomatic way of solving issues, and there's always a way to get around something that you might disagree on. But I think the important thing is remembering who's important here and what we stand by, our policies and the students who are the stakeholders. And with that, our goals should somewhat align. So sometimes when you have disagreements and you're arguing, sometimes I feel like you should just take a look back and say, okay, what we're arguing about or what we're discussing, is this in line with our policies and our rules and what the board of directors stands for? And I feel like with that we'd be able to come up with some kind of resolution. But if not, we could always take a step back and look into it. And with the president that's only here for a year, moving on, and we have a different president coming in, we'll have to think of a plan. Okay, how are we going to be able to resolve this? Or maybe that's something we could put into the policy of.
Okay, so very briefly, because I know we all want to go home. I just want to state that conflict resolution, respecting conflict resolution, is absolutely paramount. We're all adults, or at least thereabout, and there's absolutely no reason why relationships should be tarnished over disagreements. I don't think I need to add much more than that, but respect is.
What I can say is, as a solution to that, is separating work from friendship and our relationship with people. And on the side of work, I believe there's a system towards making decisions. So you have maybe vote as the board, or the VPs vote, or something of the sort. So that would be that side of conflict resolution. And the other side, I believe, by the time you end up with the board, you've learned how to deal with people. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Mary for the question. I think we could all congratulate Mary on a successful year as president. I think it's important. I think it's important that we hold the president accountable. Obviously, I think my job, as if you choose me to be board of directors, is to represent you. It's not to represent my interests; it's to represent your interests. And I think, at the end of the day, I believe Jacob somewhat alluded to this quote. So I'm sorry if I requote you here, but facts don't care about your feelings. And I think as long as you focus on the facts of what's going to make SMUSA a better organization, I think as long as, and all three president candidates have that in mind, I think as long as the best interest of SMUSA is at hand, there'll be no issues.
Okay. All right, so I had done a second, as Mitch will confirm, shuffling of the names so that you get a different order. Some people have 2 minutes, and some people have a minute and a half. I'm going to tell you the order that you're going in now, okay, and you can write it down. So it goes Brian with 2 minutes, Vimbai with 2 minutes, Jacob with 2 minutes, Pearl with a minute and a half, Joshua with a minute and a half, Alex with 2 minutes, Avinav with a minute and a half, and Govinda with 2 minutes. That's the order you're going in?
I've only got a minute and a half.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I got Jacob and Joshua mixed up. Sorry, that's my fault. Joshua, you have 2 minutes. Jacob only has a minute and a half. That's my fault. My handwriting actually looks the same. It's very tiny. So I'm going to sit down so that I'm not up here. And if you want, you can stand here for your minute and a half. If you want to, I always, when I do job interviews with people, I always give them a minute and a half or so at the end, and I say, so when you get in your car and you drive away from here and you're thinking about how this interview went, what is it the thing that you want me to remember about you when I'm comparing all the candidates? And that's kind of how you answer this question. So I've given you lots of time to think about it. I'm going to go sit over there. You'll only hear from me if you talk too long. Okay.
I'd like to start again by thanking all of you for coming here and staying to the end. Also, I want to thank the organizers and the candidates as well for going through this tough time and keeping strong. So when I go back home, I want you to remember me as someone who's trying to give back to the system, someone who's trying to give back to the school that has done so much for me. That's it. Thank you very much.
So I'd just like to say thank you to everybody for coming. Thank you to all those campaigning, and you guys are brave. It's tough. I'm here with you. But yeah, as you go home today, I think I've also learned something, literally just sitting here, that clearly I was not completely in the know. And I feel like it's really important to know that as a leader, and someone wants to be a leader, sometimes you don't know, and that's fine. And it's always good to learn and to take everything constructively, you know what I mean? Now it's time to go back, revisit, revise. But yeah, as you guys go home, I just hope that you remember what happened today and that you vote wisely and vote for what you want to see. Because like Joshua was saying earlier, if you don't vote and you don't vote for the right people, then you can't say anything. So hopefully you make an informed decision, tell your friends to make an informed decision, and I hope you all vote, and thank you once again for coming and listening to what we have to say.
Hey there, everyone. Again, my name is Jacob. I hope that when you leave today, you think on me as somebody who's trying his hardest to know what's happening, trying to learn everything that's going on, and wants to make a big difference. The board has been doing a great job this year, especially when it comes to holding the president accountable financially. They've done more than the past years have done. I want to work with the leadership team on their annual plan. I would petition the board to try to meet with them before we break for summer, to meet with the VPs and the president to talk about what we think could be in the plan before they go and write it. I would like to work towards having a 10-year plan and having different steps and things that we need to achieve to reach that plan. I think we need to write policy focusing on equity and diversity. I think we need to update our sustainability policy. I think we should be creating positions within SMUSA to represent the diverse crowd that we have here at SMU. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful night.
So just to begin, I want to say one of my life mottos is to be emotionally vulnerable and emotionally honest together with emotional intelligence. And that's just to say I want to always be honest about how I'm feeling. If I'm disagreeing with someone, I'm going to say I disagree with you. This does not sit right with me, but that does not mean that we can't work together after that. It just means that I'm letting you know that we can disagree, but we can still come to a common ground and still respect each other as board of directors. And I'm eager to work with the board of directors who are there now. I know that maybe didn't come across, but I'm excited to work with you. And then also, so my what is it? Tagline? Political agenda is to create a culture of consent around campus that is founded on three main things: education, support, and policies. So that is educating people on their rights, on the resources they have accessible, on the ways they can prevent sexual violence from happening to them or to their friends, on the ways they can they can intervene as bystanders. The other thing is support to victims and to survivors, and to get them the advocacy they need to come forward with their cases and to be heard. And policy. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, good night again. I know we must all be exhausted. I just want to congratulate all of my fellow candidates tonight for just doing an amazing job and giving a good account of themselves. It was relatively difficult coming out here. It's the middle of the week, you're tired, you want to sit in bed, but we're here, and I just want to congratulate everybody for that. I don't know if I want to thank you all for coming out as well. I just want to urge all of you to vote for who you're most comfortable with. Vote for who you think would represent your interests in the best way that you would see fit. And that's pretty much it for me. Again, thanks for coming out. And yeah, I'm Joshua Sidney. It's been real.
I need to stretch my legs. I've been sitting there for a while. I'd like to thank every single one of you for coming out today. Like I've said before, well, I tried to say it before, that was pretty embarrassing, I'm not going to lie. What I was trying to say before is that being here, partaking in the democratic process, it is the backbone of our democracy. And it's really important, and I can't stress enough that if you're not going to vote for me, that's fine. But vote for somebody, vote for the people that represent you. Listen to their campaigns, listen to their policies, check them out. Every single one, the 7 other people who have gathered here today, and the 3 presidential candidates that gather on Thursday, I think. Yeah, Thursday. Listen to their policies, listen to their campaigns. So at the end of the day, what each and every one of us is trying to do is make SMUSA a better organization and help it serve you better and to leave a legacy. Thanks everybody.
Okay, so one last thing, I would all you all to remember when you get back home is that I really want that chicken curry, on my plate. If someone gets elected, so just vote, and always just remember if you think if I won't vote and my vote doesn't make any difference, let me get back to you last year. When it was a historic win for Toronto Raptors and Kawhi Leonard just dropped in 1 3-pointer, which made a huge difference. So it's just like that, every vote counts, doesn't matter what. And at the end, I would just like to thank you all for coming out tonight. It's been a really great time. Thank you so much, my fellow candidates, and thank you, Vice Chair, Chair, President, board members. Thank you, Paula, thank you, Mitch, all other people. Stay fit, stay healthy, stay happy, stay good, study hard. get good grades. Someone good at stats, please help me out. That's all. Enjoy the life.
Hello everyone again. The last thing I want to say for you guys to remember is when I left Nepal, and then first time when I was in St. Mary's, I saw people wondering. They are still in problem. Students are. SMUSA being a student association, why it's not being able to help those students. I just want to set up help team to all those students. I know everybody doesn't want to express their problem going forward. I would definitely say vote for me. You guys know how to decide, whom to decide. So I will definitely want to set up good team, helping team. My big intention is to help. I have been helping and I have been getting help. That's why I know how it feels getting help when we get problem. I know SMUSA has a lot of resources. I have been focusing on this topic a lot because when I was in my first year, I had no idea. There is something like student association and that's called SMUSA, and I can get actually help from that. I used to just wonder and then I used to ask many people, what can I get? And still there are so many people in second and third year, they don't know how to use the resources SMUSA has. So I would definitely like to emphasize on those resources, making it accessible. And thank you everyone for coming in and being patient for 3 hours almost. And I would like to thanks again and have a great night. Thank you.
The good part involves waiting hours. It's the only reason everyone came. Alright. So I will admit fully to my own fault that the gift cards are in my office, so you can pick them up in the morning. But there are two $50 Halifax Shopping Center gift cards. 2B1 for anyone who showed up on time or within 10 minutes after the break. Or reasonably on time. And I will say now that if you're not here, I'll give you like a good minute warning. If you're not here, it doesn't count. So you got to be in the room. So those who stay to the end, this is our word for you. So I'll let Amir take over here.
We got Alexia Verma.
Tomorrow on the 5th floor. That's on me.
I was too excited.
Kartik Junison.
Lucky pair. All right. Very good. So we'll be doing this again on Thursday, as some of the candidates mentioned, for the presidential debate. So same place, same time, same prizes, same fire and passion of candidates. A couple things I will just say. First of all, thank you to everyone for coming. Thank you to the candidates. Guys, just wait. And thank you, of course, to Paula, who will be moderating again. Provincial member of the Legislative Assembly, Claudia Chender, will be joining us on Thursday to give a keynote address. Another thing to remember, if you don't come on Thursday, voting is next Wednesday, Thursday on the 12th and 13th. So make sure to vote. The links will be, it's all done online. Links will be out there. And if you are not at all related to a candidate in any way, shape, or form, and you wish to be a poll clerk, you can email elections.smusa@smu.ca, and Amir here will be hiring some poll clerks to run some of our polling stations. So if you have, and again, no possible connection to any candidate, even a little, then you can definitely apply for that paid opportunity.
So elections.smusa@smu.ca, and we'll see you on Thursday.